Welcome to the show. I'm so happy that you're here. You're going to be so happy you're here because I have got Sara Freeman Smith, this incredible human being, this wonderful woman who I have such great admiration for. You're going to love her. She is an author. She was in HR for years. She's very accomplished, but has this also has this giant heart to encourage people, help people any way she can. And so it's going to be a fun conversation. Sara, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much. I am so looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you're here. I'd love people to get a little bit of background on you because you were raised in inner city Houston,
Hmm.
not an easy place to grow up.
Hmm.
And I think it's your godparents that,
Right. Hmm.
right? And so
Absolutely.
what was it like growing up where you did?
Well, Kim, to tell you the truth, at the time, when you're a kid, you only know what you know, and it's in that little bitty bubble. So, of course, I'm assuming everybody else lives like that. But my parents, my godparents at the time, who ultimately adopted me, always reminded me to be grateful for the things that I had, and they obviously were working parents, but weren't middle class by no means. My father was a laborer with the railroad company, and my mom, when I joined the family, stopped working so she could just be home and take care of myself and my husband and her husband, my dad. So it was like, we don't have a lot, but what we have, we're going to learn. You must understand that this is blessings from God, and be thankful for it and learn to share with others. So it was tough because it was during some very tumultuous times. As most people can tell, I'm a seasoned individual. So the 60s were, I guess, a double-edged sword for a kid. I didn't experience a lot that was going on during that time, but I knew that my ticket out, as according to my parents, was to get a good education, and I love to read and do things like that. So they just applied the fundamental things that they were taught when they grew up. I hated it because I thought I was being raised old fashioned, of course, being, a kid going, well, why can't I do what my other friends, and, the fashion, the mini skirts and all. Oh, my dad was about to have a coronary arrest. Oh, no child of mine is going to leave looking like that. So it was those back and forths, because it also was about a 55, 60-year difference in our ages, because they had been married for many, many years and didn't have any children. And here I come along, and suddenly, during, obviously the Motown sound, and I wanted to go off and marry one of the Jackson Five, hey, all these crazy things that teens do.
I thought
But
I was going to marry Michael. You
see,
were
well,
going
I
to
was
marry
going to marry,
Michael?
oh, you were going to
Oh,
marry Michael. I was going to
yeah.
marry the taller one, Jackie. So anyway,
Oh,
but that
okay.
I digress. But anyway, those were such good times, but tough times, until I realized when I was getting ready to go off to school, to college. And that's when my father said, look, we don't have a lot of money. So your ticket out is, hopefully you can get a scholarship, study hard, do your best, and then we'll do whatever financially we could support you to do. And I was really, really blessed to be able to apply and get a full ride scholarship, to the University of Southern California. So that changed my total perspective, because that's when, as I tell all my friends, that's when I discovered, wow, we're poor, because I got to hang out with all the spoiled kids, the rich kids. And I'm going, you got a car, and it's a Mercedes and a BMW. Oh my God, in high school? Oh my gosh. So it gave me some grounding, so to speak. So that old fashioned raising that I rebelled against, it definitely helped me to stay anchored in Los Angeles during those times, because one could easily go, off the rails, when you're away from home that far from parents. But it was a little difficult, but I persevered, and that's something that I just didn't let my circumstances determine my destiny. And that was something my parents tried to drill in me, even though we may not be on the right side of the tracks. this is where God has placed us, and you utilize this to the best of your ability and maximize it and treat everybody like you would want them to treat you, and you'll be successful. So,
Mm. Yeah, that's so good.
yeah.
Good for you. Yeah, it's interesting. I think always when you don't let your circumstances dictate your life,
Mhm. Exactly,
but
exactly.
but you rewrite your circumstances.
You do,
Yeah.
or you determine this just doesn't feel right, and what do I need to do in order to change it? And and when you grow up around, friends, some friends are good for you, but then there's some, there's the toxic negative people. And at the time when you're, young, you really don't know that until you start thinking back. Every time I had this great idea, why did I always get shot down? Why did someone always say, oh, you're not going to do the, you won't add up to do this and you'll never be able to. And then suddenly you have to say to yourself, well, hey, I don't need any help to build, to tear me down. I can do that all by myself. So I just need a little bit of encouragement to say, keep pushing and keep pressing, and you'll succeed. So those are some of the
Yeah.
things too that makes a difference.
Yeah, so good. So good. Hopefully you don't hear my dog barking. All of a sudden he's going crazy. Can you hear him or no?
No, I didn't hear
Okay.
him. No,
Good,
no.
good, good. All
A-
right.
And I just I put mine in the bedroom and shut the door, and she was looking at me like, so where are you going? Yeah, but not where you can go.
That's right. Yeah. So I love what you just said. It's so true. It can be so hard. And I think family can be really good at shooting other family members down. And I think
Hmm.
sometimes it's not necessarily out of a bad heart. Like maybe
Hmm.
you think you're shooting for the moon and you know you're going to go do this and you've got confidence
Hmm.
in yourself, and they just don't want you to feel like a failure. They just don't want you to fall too hard,
Right,
or they just
right.
don't. So
Hmm.
they say, oh gosh, I don't know how realistic that is, or I don't know.
Exactly,
But
exactly.
I think we should be quiet. I
I,
think
I
that,
I agree. Yes,
right?
yes,
Like if somebody's
absolutely.
got a dream, chase it. If
I
somebody
know,
believes in something, go do it. Go
I
do it.
know,
And
I know.
don't shoot people down.
I know. And I try, we have just one son, one man child, as I call him, but it was always our goal to tell him, don't worry if you fail. You learn from failures. Because if you operate from a position of fear that, oh, what happens if I don't succeed, you'll never, ever try. So
Mm.
you got to go out there. You may fall on your behind, but get up. Life doesn't end. It's not, I can't remember who quoted it, but it's not how many times you get knocked down. It's most important how many times you get up, because
Right.
you have to learn from what, well, I got that. I won't do that one again. So that's the thing that we try to, encourage. But, as parents, we want to be protective in family members. And like you said, sometimes even though we think we're helping, it really is hindering. And
Mhm.
that's what we have to be mindful, because it plants that seed, especially when your kids are early and they're somewhat, when you don't think they're paying attention, that's when they do. And it's that little voice that says, oh no, don't do that, don't do that. And unfortunately, so many people will put their dreams, their aspirations on back burners because their parents go, you can't make any money doing art, you can't make any money being a singer, you can't make it, whatever that is. And then they just put it aside, but yet they're never quite content and happy in what they do as they progress through their career, because that it's kind of still on a simmer on that back, burner on the stove, so to speak. And that's what I try to encourage people to reach back and think about, what that one passion that just you just can't shake it. You always wanted to try it, but you felt like, oh my gosh, the world's going to come to an end if I do this. What are they going to say? That sort of thing. And that's the other, our biggest enemy is our self-talk, Kim. We can do a good job convincing ourselves what others will think of us. So we just tend to not want to do that, just for that mere fact.
Yeah, recently I heard that when you're 20, you worry about what everybody thinks of you. When you're 40, you don't care anymore what people
Hmm.
think of you. When you're 60, you realize nobody is thinking of you.
And nobody cares. So just
Right, right. Go for it. So go for it.
so
And
just go and do it. Now, if we could just reverse that and fast forward that, to those earlier years, it makes a world of difference. But you are so, so spot on, because that is exactly what we do. And then when you start really, when you get off that merry-go-round, so to speak, and start reflecting back, why didn't I do that? Chances are it was between your self-talk and the friends and the family kind of whispering in that ear saying, you better go. You're being good at math, so you just need to go be an accountant. Or you're always really good at helping others, so just go be a teacher. But you're a frustrated teacher or a frustrated accountant, because that's really, really, really not where your heart and your passion is. And God gives us a distinct purpose. Yes, you may have that gift, but it may be better to be used in a totally different way that will give you that enjoyment and a pleasure. So that's what makes it difficult to peel that onion back and figure that out.
Oh my gosh, so true. So true. And
Yes.
I think too, like when you talk about purpose and you talk about that we all have one. I mean, we all are
Hmm.
here for a
Hmm.
reason, all created in his image, all
Hmm.
created for his purpose, for whatever it is.
Hmm.
Yeah, I often think, our purpose really ultimately for everyone is to be authentically who you are,
Exactly.
right?
Yes, who
And
God
so
meant you to be. Yes.
yeah, yeah, and so we do as kids, we might have all the imagination in the world, building tents out of
Hmm.
blankets and,
Hmm.
making a sword out of a piece of cardboard and just being this kid with hopes and dreams and, all this
Hmm.
imagination. But then we get shot down as time goes
Yeah,
by
I know.
because we're told you
Hmm.
can't, you're not
Hmm.
able, you're not as smart
Hmm.
as, you're not as
Hmm.
good as, you're not whatever.
Hmm.
And we carry that stuff, but you gotta get rid of it and figure out who you know who you are instead
Absolutely.
of who people are telling you you are.
Mhm, mhm. I
Yeah,
know.
and I love
You've
what you
gotta
said.
distance yourself. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. You've gotta distance yourself, and that's kind of my analogy in my book, The Stones. Hey, you have the value and the purpose that's on the inside, but if you're hanging around all these other people that are never ever gonna go anywhere, they're doing the same thing they were doing 10, 20 years ago, and they don't wanna see anybody else excel, guess what? You're going to start feeling and acting and doing the same thing with those individuals. So it really, really makes it incumbent that we decide I need to be me. And if I cannot be me among this group of individuals, then I'm going to have to, move myself away, because they're not going to move. They're going to be there, and they're going to sit there, and they're going to say what they're going to say and do what they're going to do. And it's not going to change a lot. So we just need to home in, just like you said, knowing this is truly who I am, and I'm just going to have to step out on faith and be authentically who God meant me to be, and just trust that everything else will kind of fall into place. So it is.
Yeah.
It's very, very tough to do that.
Yeah, it's interesting too, talking about people that you're hanging out with and whether they're the right people and if they're not lifting you up, if they're
Hmm.
tearing you down, or if they're doing things that
Hmm.
you don't approve of, or
Hmm.
just not feeding your life at all and not
Right.
bringing any good to your life, that it's okay to walk away. I think
Oh
sometimes
yeah, I
people have
know.
a hard time with that, right?
They
But
do. They do.
yeah, but
Yeah,
walk
they do.
away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and sometimes it could even be family members. I say sometimes you got to love some family members from a distance.
Hmm.
I'm just serious, because if you leave feeling worse than when you walked into a room or a setting, something's wrong with that picture. And some people, you try to, steer the conversation back around more positive, steer it in a way, and yet they still, are in that negative, toxic place. Oh my gosh. Then you just, I tell people attitudes are contagious. They're more contagious than COVID. And if
Yeah.
someone's attitude is not in the right place and it's bad, it can affect you. And next thing you know, I wasn't feeling bad, but by the time you leave there, oh, you are far worse than you could ever possibly be. So that's when you really have to say, you know what, I'm gonna have to limit a little bit of this interaction, just an occasional little text, and just keep it moving. But that's so critical, because it rubs off, and next thing you know, you do find yourself kind of wallowing in that kind of pity party, so to speak. So
Right,
And
right.
that's something that I refuse to do.
Oh yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Mhm, mhm.
I don't like to be around negativity at all. I
No.
don't think there's a reason for it. I mean, that's why I don't
Mhm.
watch MSNBC or Fox News or
Yeah,
CNN
I know.
because it's
Yeah.
just all the negative, right?
Right, right. But you have to think about what I pour into me is going to be what comes out of me. So if I'm sitting there again, I have social media accounts only because I'm a speaker and an author, and that's the medium in which to reach my audience. But to just devour myself in all the reels and all the stories and all going down the rabbit trails, oh my gosh, your head would explode. I don't see how people could even get up out of the bed if they read all of the negative things. So it's almost like putting a limit or a fast. You just have to say, I can only, I love cheesecake, but I can't sit here and devour this whole cheesecake because I know it's going to be detrimental to me and my health ultimately. So I maybe have to do just little bits and pieces, but you have to really think about if I'm spending all this time sitting here looking at what my friends have, being envious of what they have, or oh, I wish, or learning and gossiping all. I mean, you're putting that in, it's going to come out, and it's not going to come out in a positive way. So that's where I try to force myself. If I am going to, spend some time, let me do something that's either going to lift me up, make me, laugh, or, I love mysteries, try to solve something, but be doing something that's far more positive than that will not leave that negative kind of down, kind of impact on my day to day. So, but that's something that we have to have that self control. And unfortunately, many of us, they kind of get sucked up into it and don't realize that and wonder, well, why am I feeling bad? Well, the last 2 hours, look what you spent your time doing and reading about. You think?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Hmm,
So true.
hmm.
That's so true.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So we are kindred spirits in this. I know because, and
Absolutely.
and two, we're told, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength.
Right.
And so
Hmm.
there shouldn't be a limit on your potential and letting people
I
limit
know.
your potential, let
Oh
people
no.
look at
Oh
who you
no.
are.
I know.
You
I
should be
know.
limitless
Hmm.
and hang out with the right people.
Exactly.
And the
Exactly.
negative carries over with you to other areas of your life, and then you're
Oh.
hurting other people. It's just not worth
Hmm.
it.
I know it totally isn't. Well, one of the biggest learning lessons for me, but it didn't come, Kim, until much later in my life, was that I was always trying to think of things. Oh, I want to do this, and I think I can do this, and put it all together. I'm like the ever ready bunny on steroids. Like type A super personality. Busy, busy, busy. But when I hit that big wall mid-career, when my vision was starting to diminish, and when they told me that that I had an autoimmune condition and that it was incurable and would lead to total blindness, it's like, oh my gosh, my whole world was going to come to an end. But for me, I had to stop and say, now, Sarah, either you're going to either choose and wallow in life will totally be non-existent, which is not the case. And God brought to clearly to my forefront as I was sitting on my pity party going, why me, why me, when he said, why not you? Are
Mm.
you no better than any of my other children that I said in this life there will be trouble? And in this particular instance, use this vision loss for my glory. And I'm going, okay, now granted, I'm not feeling really good about this right now, but I trust you. And so, where I used to think of things to do, I stopped, got off that merry-go-round, and God presented to me, here's my plan for you. And guess what? It was something I would have never, ever thought that I wanted or could even possibly do. And that's the way God works. He says, I'm going to do the work through you, but you're sitting up here trying to tell me what you want to do. So go right ahead on. You don't need me, and tell me how that works out. And usually, obviously, it didn't work out too well, right? So when I stopped and said, okay, you want me to redo a book and I'm blind and do what and go out? Sure enough, I just got off that merry-go-round and he put the proper people, the proper help, the tools and the resources that I was able to fulfill it. So the major lesson learned is he already has the plan. He just wants to reveal it to us. But we got to first slow down and be obedient enough to trust that through that faith you can achieve it. But we want to see, I can't imagine doing that. I mean, writing a book 25 years ago was a phenomenal uncertain feat. I resisted it because I just knew nothing about it. But God said, I didn't tell you to, you didn't need to know. I'm going to put you right in front of everyone and I'm going to equip you with the tools. And I was able to do it and then do it successfully. And that's when I learned, stop trying to outthink God because you'll never be able to do it. So trust him.
No kidding. No kidding. And speaking of your book, Sara, it is so loaded with so much good stuff. Like everybody needs to buy your book.
Oh,
I'd
thank
love for
you.
you to talk about it a bit. And what was the journey like? How was the journey different for you 25 years ago than more
The
currently?
journey
Like,
now. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
25 years ago, I was already still, I was in recruiting and I went to the underserved communities to try to find people to get them into, jobs that they felt that society had turned, a deaf ear, that they could not go to work in the nice, banks and oil and gas companies and hospitals and things of that nature around the Houston area where and when I would go tell my story in order to capture their attention, I would tell them my own personal story. And back then, 25 years ago, as you're aware, the Bill Cosby show was on, and everybody said, "Oh, you're one of the kind of like the Cliff Huxtable kind of person. Grew up on an affluent side, parents, attorneys, doctors, lawyers, teachers, something like that. You went to the all right schools and stuff." And I'm going, no, I grew up about 3 blocks down the street from where we're here at this halfway house or at this shelter or at this special community center. I went to the high school up the street and I just was fortunate enough to study well and got a scholarship, but I came back and I still have a house 3 blocks away and they're going, "Really? Oh my gosh." So that caught their attention. And then when I continued with the rest of my story, they all said it was so inspiring. I should write a book. And I'm going, Simon and Schuster is not going to line up and give me any kind of multi-million dollar advance. And who's going to buy the book? Who even cares about the story? But it was more of my journey of persevering and in believing in myself and using some of those very same tools. So 3 years later, after multiple people told me, I sat down and God said, quit your job. I was at the point of signing a major contract to be a part owner of a fairly successful staffing firm. And I walked away and I just sat. And God said, now that I've got your attention, because before you're too busy, I can't talk. It was a one-way conversation. Prayer is supposed to be two-way conversation. Well, it was always me telling him what I needed him to do. Well, this time I had nothing but time. So he just revealed to me, you write it, and then I'll tell you the next step. And the next step was put it in a booklet form. Then the next step was bind it like a cookbook. And then you need to go out and told me to go to some conferences, start speaking. And it just worked. And from there, I learned how to put it in a perfect bound state and begin to network. So 25 years ago, I had sight. It was a great tool, it was a great thing. I did it for about 3 years and then got back into the corporate structure. But fast forward 25 years now, I've lost my vision and I have ended my recruiting career, but I still, can't help but tell people how to, find their career, goals and paths. But it was totally different because now I can't see. I had to pick the colors, the graphics. I needed help. And that was my other major life lesson. I needed to rely on graphic artists. I had to tell them, this is what the old book looked like. Can you make it do this? And this is what I want you to do formatting. So it was definitely a different experience, but it was that leap of faith saying, not only can you do it, but I want you to record it so that you can help others who everybody has a story. It's just, is it something that will encourage or inspire others to move forward? So I'm now trying, along with my husband, to update another book that we did about 20 years ago on how to self-publish and market your own book and do the things that we've started to do with my book. So even though 90 to 95% of my vision is lost now, that doesn't make me less of Sarah. I'm still Sarah. I just have to do things differently. I have to learn to use accessibility tools a little bit more, workaround may take me a little bit longer, but I persevere, and people are encouraged by that. And I don't want them to think, oh, I'm so sorry. No, I don't need the pity. I want you to just pray for my continued growth and ability to touch and let others go, hey, this is not something that defines who I am. I can still do all things, as you said, through Christ who strengthens us. We know that, but I have to trust and believe and get out there and let others know that they can do it. So it has definitely been a learning curve, but I'm enjoying absolutely every moment. And I just tried to make sure that the same thing that helped me 25 years ago, I had to take a big dose of that medicine about a year ago when I republished, and did the third edition, because I'm going, okay, planning means you got to stop, you got to listen and have patience, and some of the P's that I talk about in the book. So it is something that's very practical for me.
And practical for others. I mean, people are going to read it and get a lot out of it, and it's life-changing. It's just really good.
Oh, thank you.
Very inspiring. Yeah, it's excellent. And so, yes, go buy the book, everybody. Go buy it,
Absolutely.
and then write a review for it so that other people will
Oh,
buy it as
absolutely.
well, right?
Absolutely.
Something that you mentioned, Sarah, that I think is true for most people, I would say, is that you had to ask for help, and
Mhm.
it was a whole sort of mind shift.
Oh,
And,
total.
right, and I think the same thing. My husband, this 15 years ago, I lost my husband, but he was
Mm,
diagnosed with cancer, and people would offer help. And at first, I was like, we don't need help. We don't need help.
mhm, mhm.
When you ask for help, I found you're blessing the other person by saying yes,
Absolutely. Mhm.
right?
Yes,
And
yes.
it's like at first it's like
Mhm,
humbling. It it
mhm.
can it can feel funny because you
Oh,
feel like you're this
oh,
independent person,
absolutely. Yeah.
right? So yeah, talk about that. I want to hear your perspective on
Oh,
that.
yes, because again, being that type A personality, pride, ego, I was always the helper, Kim, when anything needed to be done. Ask Sarah, okay, I may not know, but I'll figure it out and we're gonna make this thing happen. And then suddenly when you sit there and you go, okay, I gotta ask for help, that means I have to humble myself. And not only who do I ask for help, but it's how you ask for the help. That I had to, kind of sit down and say, okay, I need to do this, and this is the time frame, and I got to ask this person, and if they don't, do I have a backup? And most importantly, once you ask, just learn to be patient, because life happens for everybody, and even though it may be an emergency on my part, that does not cause that to be an emergency on Kim's part. And she said she's going to help. Then, hey, I just had to learn to be a lot more patient. And I think that was the greatest lesson that God had to teach me, because it was like, right now, right now, right now, right now, make it happen. This is taking too long. Well, God's timing and my timing is two different things. He does not have his Rolex and he's going, ooh, I'm running out of time here. Let me go. Everything, he's putting things in place. And for me, I just had to understand, when I ask for help and the person commits, clarify some things, it felt so good, like you said, when the person would arrive and say, Sarah, I'm so glad you asked me to help, because I wanted to do some things, but I didn't know how to approach it. And I'm going, oh my gosh, all I had to do was just say, hey, I need a little help here. And then it turned out to be a far greater blessing than what, I may have initially asked. It could have been, hey, can you take me to this place? Not only did they take me to the place, they go, oh, let me take you to my secret shopping place. Let me show you this. And I'm going, far more than what I expected. But it is to learn to humble yourself. And that's why God says, pride comes before the fall. You cannot do everything, but what you can do, you should do, and do it with the very best that you can. But learn, God places helpers right there. But just like he says, I stand at the door, but I'm knocking. I'm not going to bust the door down. You're going to have to invite me in. So that means, hello, you want to come in? So you got to be able to ask and say, hey, I'm not sure about this, or I'm not sure how to quite go about this. Do you know, or can you help? And it gives that other person such a warm and just it's almost an indescribable feeling that, wow, that you thought enough of me to ask me to help you. And yes, not only am I going to do it, but they're going to try to exceed those expectations that you have, and learn to just have that attitude of gratitude at all times. I mean, that's my other, perspective too, that I talk about in the book. Learn to keep a prayer gratitude journal, because as you're going on this career path, and again, careers may not necessarily be work. It could be, you could become a volunteer, just go do something at your child's school, but to give something back. And your most precious asset is your time, but to give that to someone and give it willingly and graciously, oh my gosh, it just forms a contagious mindset of gratitude. And I think when you think and dwell on all the things that you have and how thankful you are, you get more of those things. The same way when you are always going, I don't have this, I don't have that, you get more of what you don't have. So
Mhm.
I just rethink and just kind of go back with the focus of attitude of gratitude, and learn to be willing to ask and accept help. And then, most importantly, in the book, I ended, pave it forward for others. Don't, when you know that you have been blessed with whatever you can do, you can be a blessing to someone else, even if it's just a mere smile or a little, a kudo, great job. It means the world to someone. So pass those blessings back on. Do not just keep it all to yourself. So those are some of the things that I try to live by, and it has come back to me so many ways and so many different blessings because of that.
Oh my gosh, that's so everything you just said, Sarah, is gold. I mean, it's so good. Yes, being grateful. Yes,
Hmm.
allowing people to help you. The feeling that you get when you get to help somebody
Hmm.
else
Hmm.
is the same feeling somebody else is going to get when they get to help you. So
Absolutely.
accept the help. Realize we're all in this together. You don't have to do it alone. Like,
Hmm.
let's do this thing together and
I
support
know.
each
I know.
other and help
I know.
each other out. And gratitude.
Exactly.
Gratitude
Yeah.
is so important. My word, look at where we live and look at that we get to wake up and breathe every day. I mean,
I
there's
know.
so
And
much to
that's
be
the
grateful.
starting point. People sit and go, so, you go, good morning. So what's so good? I had someone not too long ago. So what's so good about it? The fact that you can say what's so good, not so good about it. I said, do you realize that there are people that wish that they could utter a word? Do you realize that there are people that wish they could raise their head up off of a bed and you hit the floor? And you don't think that that's something to be grateful for? Yes, I'm thankful I have aches and pains. There are people that don't feel anything. Now, what would you say?
Right,
And then
right.
they go, oh, okay. And you're sitting there complaining, oh, I don't have enough food. You go through the pantry. It may not be what you want, but the last time I checked, I saw a whole pantry full of canned goods, some things, some bread, some crap. You got food.
Right,
I
right.
mean, come on now. Be
Mhm.
thankful. There are people that don't know what they're going to eat from hour to hour, day to day. And you're sitting here complaining because you can't go and eat at the finest steakhouse or something. It's a changing of that mindset. And that's really what the whole focus in turning stones into gems is. Learning my true value, my true worth is on the inside, but being able to then turn it around and use it for God's own good, because he will put all those other individuals, angels, messengers, things that will bless you and you bless them in so many ways. It's almost like a magnet, so I truly try to live by that. And each and every day, it still amazes me. Just a simple call or something that someone said, Sarah, you know what? You were so encouraging the other day. And I'm going, well, what in the world did I say? You don't even realize it, but whatever it was, encouraging for that person, that it meant enough for them to come back and say thank you, because I needed just to hear, hey, don't give up, girl. Go on over there. You can make it happen. Do it. I got you. So those are
Yeah.
just little simple things.
Yeah. And it's the little simple things that really do make a big difference quite
I
often.
know.
It
Yeah,
doesn't have to be some grand gesture, but smiling at somebody in the grocery
I
store
know.
can change
I
somebody's
know.
day. I mean, it's scientifically proven
Yeah,
that if you
absolutely.
smile, chances are somebody else is going to
I
smile
know.
back.
I
And
know.
then
It's
what
kind
it
of
does
hard.
for us,
I
yeah,
know. I
what
know.
it does for us to smile is,
Hmm.
it helps us in so many ways. I mean, there's so many studies that have shown that it is uplifting. It changes things. Your mind thinks in a different way. I mean, so yes, and that's another way to pay it forward, like you
I
talk
know.
about paying it forward.
I know.
Absolutely,
I know.
to whom much is given, much is required,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely. I know.
I I think
It,
we've all received a lot.
I
But
know. I
yeah,
know. And when you think about it, it's usually the hard work of the person. My husband and I was just talking about it the other day when we went to picked up something at a fast food restaurant and said, "Wow, there was really great customer service." And I said, "And why didn't we stop?" I said, "Let's go." We turned right back around and said, "Hey, by the way, thank you. That was excellent. You were an awesome, awesome cashier and server. Great job. Keep it up." I tell you, that person, it almost like they turned 20 night and day. They lit
yeah.
up. Oh, you're welcome. Nobody ever tells you, good job. They just
Mhm.
grab the bag or whatever and out the door they go. And I said, and why didn't we think to tell? Because it was above and beyond. And to just go tell that person that, I said, don't know what they got up that morning with, but just to make a simple statement like that it just means the world. So you just never know. But that was that little quiet, still voice that when my husband said, and we both agreed. So go take another second or two to go back and tell that person.
Ah, that's
Yeah,
beautiful. I love that. And
absolutely.
yeah, and what a difference that can make with
Yeah,
somebody.
it sure does.
And then the reality is, if somebody wasn't working at that fast food place, even just
Exactly.
working and not going above and beyond, you wouldn't be
Yeah,
getting the food.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
you
Exactly.
be kind
Right.
to people,
And
be kind
so
to
take it
them.
for granted.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because we're quick to remember the poor service we get. Oh my gosh. Not only do we remember, we wind up telling half the world, right? So
Right.
when you do get the good service, what happens there? You never tell me. You just
Mhm.
walk away. So no, go back and let that person know, that you really did appreciate that because that could make a difference, So you just never know. And we all need that. That's just something so simple but so encouraging and refreshing. So I was listening at some of your shows last night, and oh my gosh, I mean, I didn't think I would get golden nuggets from the psychic detective and then
Oh,
the
yeah.
musician who took the trip to Haiti. And I'm going, look at this. I mean, everyone has something to share that can be so motivating and so encouraging that you never even fathom it. You're just sitting there and go, wow, I love that. So you're doing the very thing that we need more of is spreading and getting the word out that love and inspiration will go a lot further in this world than the negativity that we're all facing right now. So kudos to you for what you're doing.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing because you're touching a lot of lives and you're going to be touching even more lives. And then even with the rewriting your book on self-publishing, man, what a gift is that? One of the greatest legacies I always feel like people think if I write a book that I want to sell
Hmm.
100,000 of them or
Yeah.
something. Well, most books don't sell that many.
No, no, that's
But
right. No.
but you
Mm-mm.
wite it because God's tapping you on the shoulder
Yeah.
and telling you to
And
write it. And what a
exactly.
and it's a beautiful legacy for your family,
Exactly. And if
right?
nothing else, that in and of itself, because we don't sit down and tell our family stories like when I was growing up, when my parents did. So what a wonderful legacy that will last well hundreds of years after you're gone. So it's really very, very important that we let people know your story is worth telling. You just need to decide what you want to do with that. Now, if you want to be New York Times bestseller, that you're going to have to do a lot of work to do that, but that's still possible. But also, just like you said, if it is just meant to have something of a legacy to share with a family, then it is also achievable and very, very easily reached, within one's capabilities. But giving them the tools to tell them how to go about doing them, and letting them make that decision. So yes, there's
Yeah.
so many stories to tell.
And people can reach out right on your website to
Yes,
with any questions on
absolutely.
that and see what you've got going on that end, because it's all really good stuff and you make it
Absolutely,
attainable.
absolutely.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, when they visit my website, I offer two free bonuses. They can download the action planner that's also in my book, what kind of helps you kind of figure out what is it I want to be when I grow up for that second or third or fourth time, so to speak. Begin to ask yourself how you're prioritizing your time and how you want to, readjust it. And then there's another free download of a 30-day prayer and a gratitude journal that you can just begin to just write. I suggest about think of three things. One day maybe three, second day maybe four. Next thing you know, you'll begin to pour out all those gratitudes and those prayers, but then begin to look back after a couple of weeks and say, look how God is working at what I put out. So, but if they go to the website, which is www.urgems.com. They'll find those free downloads as well, and some other resources for people with disabilities, because I'm also a very strong proponent for the advocacy of hiring individuals with disabilities and letting them know that we're going to dispel those myths that, especially for people that are blind and visually impaired, we can be just as vital in the workplace as anybody else, just given the right
Mm.
tools.
Right, right, right. Yes, absolutely. I love that you do that because it is so important, and it's you, the letter U, the letter R, gems.com. So go
.com.
to the website, all kinds of resources. I love the downloads, and that you're an advocate. It's so interesting because so often um, we start advocating for things that after we've been through something,
Hmm.
when it really touches us. And to me, those are the strongest advocates because
Hmm.
you can relate to
Yeah,
people
you've
a whole
experienced
different
it.
way.
Hmm.
Right. And
Exactly.
and then how to help people, what people are being overlooked or
Hmm.
not being helped the way they should, uh,
Exactly.
because you're in it,
Yeah,
because you understand.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, and it's much needed, just within the entire disability community, because immediately people go, "Oh, person's going to be needy. Oh, this is going to cost me this. Oh, they're not going to show up," and it's just quite the opposite. Studies show very productive, very efficient companies, are quite profitable when they're being more inclusive in bringing people of all, capabilities within the workforce. So if they said, if Sarah can do it, why can't others? And so I just want to try to leave that legacy to work with employers as well as individuals, because some of them have been told, hey, now that you've lost your sight, you can't do this anymore. Well, no, let's look at some of these accessibility tools. It may take you a little bit longer, but you can still do some of these same things. And then being able to sit and talk it out and flesh that out, and then being able to present that, to companies, or even become an entrepreneur like I did and open up your own business and, go with it from there. But there are options. So being able to help those, I love being able to be a voice for those who don't feel that they have that voice and that capability. So I'll continue to do it as long as I can.
Yeah. Well, I see you, Sarah, as like a Barbara Jordan, just this woman
Oh,
who
well,
is full of
so
wisdom.
ironic you say that.
Yeah.
She grew up about 4 blocks from
Ah,
in my neighborhood, and I
oh,
love her.
really?
I
Oh,
know. I always admired her. She came to as a matter of fact, a funny story, but she came to my elementary school, and I had only been in Houston. Was in LA, and then came to live with my godparents when I was in the third grade. And you know how you have the assemblies in the cafeteria, auditorium, whatever it was, elementary school. But we were all running around like crazy little elementary kids. And Barbara Jordan was running that year for a state representative, and she grew up and went to that elementary school. And the principal wanted her to come and speak. And the principal was, trying to stop, be quiet. We were run. I never will forget. She came up to that podium and she said, "No, I'll take this." She took the mic. "Will you be seated?" And we all stopped and turned and thought John Kennedy was at our school, because, she went to law school in Boston. So she had that thick Boston accent from that moment on. And she said, "Have a seat." And I remember at the end of her talk, she said, "You tell the world who you are the moment you open your mouth." And I said, "The power of your words will go around the world." And it blew me away as a little girl. And who knew the power of my words and my voice would be an avenue that I would use to be of an encouragement to others. So Barbara Jordan definitely was one that she commanded one's attention with the words, but the way she delivered those words, you knew they were authentic and coming from her heart as well. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan, and because too, she didn't listen to the naysayers.
I know. Oh no, if you read her autobiography, who knew? As a kid, you didn't think she was going through all those, challenges. I mean, just even becoming a member of the debate team, they didn't have any women on the debate team at the school she was going to, but shattered that and continued to shatter all of the naysayers. So yes, she totally pressed on and was such a powerful influence for a little girl like myself. So I'm so thankful for that.
Oh my word, I love that story. I love that. And
Yeah,
I love that she just took control of the room.
just took the
And
whole control. I mean, with her voice. I
yeah.
mean, and what it's like. It's like herding cats in in elementary school. you know, and we were all. I mean, we all dropped and we were turning, and I mean, we sat and we were totally mesmerized by her voice. But still, we were young enough that she was imparting some wisdom. At least I'd like to think, at least this little girl, she did. That that would come, full circle. Never realized that I would ultimately use that, but I would often reflect back on that. And obviously being a Houstonian, admired and followed her throughout her career. So yeah, good people,
Yeah.
good
Well, you
woman.
remind me of her
Oh
in a lot
wow.
of different ways. You're an inspiration, obviously, but you're also such a giver. Like your whole life, it seems to me, has been about pouring into others.
Hmm.
And I think about how many people, when you were in Houston and you were telling people that they had more potential than they realized, and you were getting people into better careers, into
Hmm.
school, and inspiring them. How many people, who knows? And then it didn't just affect them, it affected their family.
Right, right.
And even from siblings, but also when their parents one day, and
Hmm.
then the way that life happens for their kids, and on and on and
I
on.
know, I know.
My word, Sarah, you've touched so many lives and done so many incredible things. I think about that song. I wish it was at Jeremy Camp. It was somebody,
Hmm.
thank you for giving to the Lord. Like the guys wandering through
Uh-huh.
heaven. Do you know that song? And
Hmm.
people
I
are
think I've
walking
heard
up
it.
to
Yeah.
him.
Hmm.
Yeah, people are walking up to him right and left, going, "Thank you for giving to the Lord." Like, I'm a life that was changed because of what you did. Man,
Yeah.
when you are walking those golden streets, people are going to be coming up to you right and left and telling you,
Uh,
because
Thank you so very much. Because yeah, that's when I stopped taking what I was doing for granted and knew, because some of those, like you said, individuals would come back and say, "Did you realize you told me this and I took your words and I went back to school, or I took this training and I got this job." And I'm going, "Are you kidding me?" And again, you just think, I just encouraged you not to give up. Yeah, we can do, but how many people do you say that and you think they actually do it, but to come back and tell you that. And I mean, it was so beautiful to know God used me because, again, I just thought what I was doing, everybody else did it. But they said, no, you may have told me no, but you told me what I could do to turn that no into a yes. And that
Mm,
was the difference.
wow.
Everybody else just said, no, we don't want to hire you. You explained you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this, and I know you can do it. And they actually, some of them took my advice and they did. So I just totally
Wow.
thank God because I know that it was Him guiding me to do that and to be able to have someone come back and share that, even from my books from 25 years ago. A lady that I met in 2004 comes across my name on LinkedIn during the pandemic. I accept the invite. She's like a mile from Houston and she is so excited. She says, I need to talk to you. I never got a chance to thank you. I met you at the bookstore, bought your book, but you talked to me afterwards, told me I could do it, encouraged me, take that leap of faith. I did. My daughter helped me. We were blown away. She did women's retreats all around the country. And she said, I just wanted to thank you because you were the reason that I was able to complete what I know God had called me to do. And that just blew me away. But Kim, what was even more powerful, she said, Sarah, you need to write another book or need to pull the book out because we need more of what you shared in your book. And that's what led me to go, well, I thought I was through. But see how God works? He used someone that I encouraged 20 years ago to come back to encourage me to go and do it again. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
when I know
Yeah.
that I'm being used, and I thank God for that.
Oh, I love that, Sarah. What a great story. And that had to be such a great moment. And I think those kind of moments too are humbling,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
That God
absolutely.
would use you. I
Hmm.
think of that, like that God would use me to do something like, who am I?
Yes.
That
I
God would
know.
use,
I know.
but we're all the same. We're
I
all
know.
that God
Exactly.
wants to use.
Yeah. And a chance meeting like that. It's not like we had a 2 hour conversation, just
Mm,
a mere chance. But he placed her there at that moment, and I said what I was supposed to do at that moment. And then he took over from there. That
yeah.
just
Beautiful.
blows me away. So that's what causes me to continue to each day just thank God and say, okay, what do we have on the plate for today?
I love it. I love it. I love you, Sarah. You're amazing. You're such
Oh,
an, like I said, an
thank you.
inspiration and do so much for so many people. I'm so grateful that you are on this earth doing the things that you do.
Oh, no. Well, thank you. As you said, I think we're kindred spirits the moment we met. So I totally, totally know we were to be connected.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Absolutely. I feel the same. We could be best friends. We could just hang
Hmm.
out all the time. That would be great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because this
So,
has felt like a conversation on the couch, just sitting down,
right.
just having a good old conversation. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. Me too. So again, people can reach out to you at your website.
Yes.
And the letter U, the letter R,
Hmm.
gems.com,
Dot com.
gems.com.
Absolutely.
Yes, and you've got all your information there, and you can buy the book from there.
Hmm.
You can whatever, but you
They
also
can
have
reach out, email me. We can have a personal consultation, talk, what have you. That's the best way to reach me.
okay.
Absolutely.
So what you just said is you offered people a personal conversation,
Hmm.
and lots of people do that, Sarah, and they don't mean it. But with you, I know you mean it.
Oh,
So if
absolutely.
anybody wants to reach out to you, you are open to that and you would be
Absolutely.
there. I
They
love
can.
that. I love that.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Sarah, I'm afraid our hour is over. I can't believe that
I
time went by
know.
so fast. But thank you so much for being
Oh,
here. Thank you for who you are. So
oh,
appreciate you.
I thank you and thank God for putting us together. And thank you for this opportunity. And I hope if I just touch one, then I've done my part. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah.
And thank you for joining us. And until we see each other again, be blessed.